Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren gave a passionate speech on Capitol Hill yesterday in the wake of the abortion memo leak. Let's watch.
This will fall on the poorest women in our country. This will fall on the young women who have been abused, who are victims of incest. This will fall on those who have been raped. This will fall on mothers who are already struggling to work 3 jobs to be able to support the children they have. Well, I am here because I am angry, and I am here because the United States Congress can change all of this. Yes.
This sentiment was echoed by former Rising co-host and co-host of Breaking Point's Crystal Ball, in which she tweeted, "Let's be clear, wealthy women will always have access to whatever doctors, medicines, and procedures that they want. Ending Roe is an attack on the autonomy of poor and working class women."
As A More Perfect Union points out, overturning Roe v. Wade is class warfare. Financial hardship is the most common reason people seek an abortion. 51% of women in the landmark Turnaway study were below the federal poverty line when they sought an abortion. 76% lacked the funds to cover basic living expenses. Here to discuss is Max Alvarez, editor-in-chief of The Real News, and Newsweek contributor Denise Long. Welcome to you both.
Thanks,
Good
guys.
morning.
Denise, what are you thinking about this subject? I'd love to just, get your response to everything going on.
Yeah, so I think there needs to be some context to Warren's statements. The percentage of women who get abortions from rape is about 1%, and then those from incest is like 0.5%. It is very true that most women who go seek abortions are at or below the poverty line, that amount for a 2-person family. They are predominantly white, 39% or so, but a large percentage of them are Black, about 28%, and then Hispanic, about 25%. Those, of course, vary per state, but that's about the national. And they are also traditionally religious, from Catholic to Protestant and the like. And they are mostly women aged 20 to 29. The vast majority of abortions happen, and when I say vast majority, I'm talking upwards of 70%, happen electively, meaning I'm not ready at this moment. It will not work with my life plans to have another child at this moment, because most people who get abortions have had at least one child. So there needs to be some serious context about what is happening. And what I would like to see is, and I know this is a passionate, impassioned conversation for people to think about, but I think what we really need right now is reasoned, honest dialogue about what this potential ruling could mean, and questions really of our states really ready, and state leaders really ready from a moral character perspective to have this level of authority about any number of things that this decision will open the opportunity to change.
Denise, it's interesting because I take your point about the plurality, the majority of abortions not being in the most extreme context, the rape incest context. But it is also true that the Mississippi case that resulted in this forthcoming decision did not have exclusions for rape and incest in those most extreme circumstances. Is that a messaging mistake, a political mistake for the people who are advocating for Roe to be overturned, to have included the kinds of cases that make even, pro-choice advocates blanch?
I would say that no one would want, right, what you just said, to tell a woman who has been raped or has experienced incest that you must have that baby and just put it up for adoption. I think that is a careless, unempathetic way to approach that kind of experience, which is the exception to the rule for had been the exception to the rule for abortion. It's not just a messaging mistake. I think it's something that people have to look at around values, but that is the question. What is the extent to which the federal government should allow a woman to, kill her unborn child, fetus, baby, whatever you want to call it, which I would also like us to stop getting away from these euphemisms. Let's have real conversations about what is happening. Are we going to force women in this country to have children under certain circumstances? Or are we going to leave it wide open where if a woman decides that she doesn't want to, for whatever reason, including all the different reasons from medical and her life and all of that, that she has the right to decide if she's going to give birth to a baby or not? I'd like us to just be really real about this. I can't see myself telling a person who's impregnated from rape or incest that you got to have this baby. We need to have a conversation about the extent to which government should fund that and allow women to make those decisions themselves. But we have to do that in honest ways. And this hair on fire, claiming it's more than it is, really doesn't get us where we need to go with these conversations.
I mean, what we're really deciding, we being the Supreme Court, if it goes this way, is they are deciding that the democratic process, and thus the government, the legislatures get to decide this question. Go ahead, Max. Want to get you in, weigh in on all this. What are you thinking?
I don't know what conversation we're having, guys. I just got to be honest here. The question we started with is this a form of class war? Yes, of course it's a form of class war. It's always been a form of class war. Abortions have been on the decline since the passing of Roe, but they have been increasingly concentrated among poor people. The predominant, a lot of black and brown people in there. Mortality rates for giving birth. A black person is 3 to 4 times more likely to die during childbirth than a non-Hispanic white person. Indigenous people are 2 to 3 times more likely to die than a non-Hispanic white person. We just saw the statistics that the biggest reason that people have for seeking an abortion is financial necessity, at the same time that the Hyde Amendment after Roe v. Wade essentially targeted the very people who need those abortions the most because of that financial necessity, by making it impossible for them to use Medicaid dollars to recoup expenses that they can't afford on their own. This is what poor and working class people who can get pregnant are also always kind of saying. The out-of-pocket costs for getting an abortion for many folks, working class folks, is a third of their monthly income. If you already have a kid, if you're already living close to the bone, you can't pay that. You also can't travel out of state if you happen to live in somewhere like Texas, and then you have to wait 2 to 3 days to get an abortion. That option is more or less off the table. This is what Crystal Ball was trying to point out in that tweet. We all know, we've seen the data. We know that even before Roe, wealthier people are going to be able to get the care that they want and they need. Poor people are not. How is this not a form of class war? If we're going to have the honest conversation that you're calling for, Denise, let's stop muddling the goddamn water and acknowledge the fact that this is a form of class war. It always has been a form of class war.
I would not disagree with that, but what I will say is we don't champion aborting babies because Black women are dying. What we look at what is causing that health inequity. We don't look at or champion aborting babies because women can't afford to have them, Black women in particular. What we look at is what has caused and correct the underlying issues around their inability to afford to have a child and feel that aborting it is their only option. I am going to say it, and I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it again. 80% of the population in America who is Black is freedmen. Reparations. We're not going to abort kids because people can't afford to have them. And if the American government doesn't see the need to take care of American citizens, so we aren't making ridiculous choices about feeding our children, killing our children, or starving ourselves or of our own medicines, that is a huge problem. And it's a failure of our government that this is the level of conversation that we're having, and that is the reason that we're having it.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. But the point is, again, they're not doing that. This is just like when, people on the right, and I used to think this way when I was a conservative, is just like, why are we worrying about, X, Y, or Z, or why are we shuttling money to countries outside of the U.S. when our veterans are dying on the street, when veterans have high suicide rates and homeless rates and stuff like that. That's true, but it becomes this rhetorical widget to essentially avoid addressing the issue. I wholeheartedly agree with you that if we actually address
But are we
the
demanding
substantive
it, Max? Are
economic
we
issues that
demanding it?
create this cycle of poverty, that would fix a lot of these things. But the people who are pushing for this are not trying to fix that. So we're essentially still getting screwed. The class war is still on. No one's trying to fix it, not on the Republican or the Democratic side. So everyone in the bottom rung is getting screwed.
And why do we vote? Why do we vote? Do we demand it? A large percentage of the American population that lives in the country that my ancestors built will tell me that I am lazy and that my people haven't worked hard. And the reason Black Americans are where they are is because, we don't have bourgeois values, allegedly. We don't value education and all of these other stereotypical tropes while they sit in the country that slaves built, who seeded the industrial complex that allowed for the great wave of folk to come over here, while Black folks from other countries come to America and sit in our institutions and claim our Blackness and call us lazy. We don't have real conversations about what's going on in this country, and people get their feelings hurt when we do. So for me, with all of this, let's stop the euphemisms, let's have the real conversations, and let's let everybody know who is elected. You are getting voted out in 2022 and 2024 if a significant part of your political platform does not include the economic stability of American citizens. Are the majority of people willing to say that? Are the majority of people who sit in the country that my ancestors built willing to support my repair when they have been holding on to and been taken care of by the money that our families have not gotten? It's gross to even suggest that the reason is bootstrapping. It's gross to me to suggest that we have to kill kids because we can't afford them.
Max, we'll give you the last word quickly.
Oh, that's totally cool. I think okay. So the last word I would give, right, is to kind of pick up on Denise's point, right, about this is a much bigger issue than electoral politics. And I think some of the most productive discussions right now are happening among folks who are saying, clearly voting has not stop this, right? So how can we help each other in our respective locales? What abortion funds can we donate to? What resources can we offer to people? That doesn't mean that we totally give up on the electoral realm, but I'm at least happy to see people saying we need to work together to help people who are in dire need right now. But I guess I would just say that, as far as the electoral realm goes, again, I grew up conservative. I know how Republicans think about this. Republicans have no way to justify the fact that their political program enriches and empowers a very small few while funneling all of us into this downward spiral. So they have to trade in moral panics. That is why they do it all the time, whether they're in power or out of power. They turn working people against one another. But the Democrats don't get off scot-free here either. They have been fundraising and campaigning off of protecting Roe for my entire goddamn lifetime. And now we are all seeing that they failed. So what are they going to do? How have they helped us? They have failed people, and both parties have failed people. And I am just livid, and I'm sorry to anyone who's watching this that our political establishment sucks so much, but don't lose your faith in other working people. Lean on each other. We are the ones who are going to get us out of this.
Max
and there's an
Denise,
element of personal responsibility here as well.
Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more Rising right after this.